What we're looking at here is the quick start view, and let's go ahead and get started. On the upper left, we're going to be entering project name and some start dates, and then a duration and end date. We're going to make some selections to move off of a holiday or weekend if necessary, and then we're going to be entering in here some dates for what's to be displayed. So let's go ahead and start on the upper left. I'm going to enlarge this. So you want to enter in my project date. You'll see 3 different start dates. Here's what they represent. Effort start date is when it first comes onto your radar and you want to start recording. Hey, I see something. I want to get going on this project or effort. Let me make an initial entry here on the date. The pre-start date, and again, recall right now this example is for a proposal. So the pre-start date is, say you got a heads up, you got to start working on an RFP, a draft came in, and you may have an indeterminate number of days, or maybe a fixed number of maybe 5 days to work on it. That's what this date is for. The timer start date is when, hey, I'm going to be producing the schedule that, no kidding, this is when the activities need to start, and there's an end date. And the end date could be, we're looking over to the right here, the customer may give 45 days to complete the activity. If not, let's say they give 30, just simply highlight that, change to 30. Or they may give an actual end date of, let's say, 7:30. And you can't have both a duration and date, so delete the duration, and then there is your end date. So for right now, we're going to use the 45 day, get rid of the fixed end date, and then we're going to move off to the right here. If you want to have the end date of the entire project, not any individual tasking, but the entire project and effort, to not occur on a weekend or holiday. In other words, if your planned end date occurs on a weekend, you may want to move it to the left to the next previous day. So here's an option to say, yes, move it left off of a weekend. And the option below here is to, yes, if my end date of the entire project falls on a holiday, move that left to the previous date. There's other individually selected dates for each task that we'll get to in just a moment. Scrolling down, here's the date range to display. You can select any dates for your tasks and activities. Most of the output schedules display only up to a 2-year period. So if you have a 10-year, 5-year period project, you'll be able to view 2 years at a time, and you can shift those dates around. So you'll see my effort start date. There's pre-selections here. The effort start date is what coincides with what you entered above. Let's get rid of that. And so here's the date that you selected for effort start date. And when you select effort start date here, it'll pre-populate that. Same thing with the end date. You can select any of the prefixed end dates. But let's say if you want to have your own separate date, here I entered my end date. You could say my complete end date. And then you can edit that date here. So 6:30, 6:31, 6:25, whatever you want to add in or change. Same thing with the effort start date. I've pre-selected effort start date. This is only, again, for the display, what's going to be displayed on the calendar and some of the other areas. Again, you can have up to a 2-year display date. If you want to change that, you can say, enter in my start display date. Okay, so whatever you want to add in. But we're going to fix this back to the effort start date. So we have a start date of 5/25 and display date of 6/30. And we can always change that because you can see the auto due date is 7/21. So we're going to reselect this to due date. And down here at the bottom shows what dates are actually going to be used. Further down, you can enter in your project description. All right, now that you have the setup done, let's move over to the main schedule. The main schedule, the top area here is simply a dashboard replica of some of the data you previously entered. You can enter in some reference data of your own up here on the left. And then here you can enter in any notes you'd like. And then there's some comments here about only edit the cells below, and the task table where you can enter data starts here. Now we're getting into the most important area of creating the schedule. This table, which is labeled task table starts below, starts here. This is the header area, and then we're going to scroll down, and these are the tasks all below it. The data entry areas are in green, light or dark green. There's some columns that say do not edit. This being an open source tool, meaning you can actually go in and change these equations, but if you do, there's going to be a problem. So save, and save as in the next revision. Keep your copies and move forward. Okay, so basically you start at the top, you enter in your first task, office of primary responsibility, and there's notes here that says what this is all about. Some of these have selection items and you can select. Maybe there's a personnel, and there's another way to edit these so you have exact people involved. Percent complete on the activity. It's up to you. You can enter 0, leave it alone. If you say 100%, it will go gray, and only gray for that particular task. And if you look to the right here, you'll see this proposal start date is grayed out. If I was to say, hey, I don't care about that row at all, I'll select NA, and then the entire row, everything will be grayed out. This does not have the same effect in all of the other views, but you can see it here. Moving forward, let's say this is 80%. You can select milestone, phase, task, whatever you like. This is just for reference. Then you want to enter the start date of your activity. I've pre-populated this, and don't get hung up on the names, don't get hung up on the sequence and the dates. This is just for reference as what you could do, and in this example is for a proposal. So I have a proposal start date of 5/26, a duration, and you'll see if I didn't want to do a duration, I could actually enter an end date. Then there's a no edit area, which does some calculations. To the right, on these two areas, each individual task you can select to either, if the end date falls on a weekend, move it to the left, or if it falls on a federal holiday, move it to the left, because on federal contracts, neither one is allowed for end dates and deliveries, but that's at your option. You can always select no, and it'll just simply be colored with a little yellow there. But what this does is if you select yes, it will alter the end date to your true end date over here, your true end day, and your true duration. So if you look here, in this case, there's a duration of 5, falls on some sort of a weekend or holiday. It says no, it's got to go to the 9th, and that's a Friday, and it'll show a duration of 4. So apparently starting on 6/6, a duration of 5 would put it onto a weekend, and this will shove it off. If you say, we'll take a look here, yep, and there it goes to the 10th. So most end dates cannot be on a weekend or federal holiday. So you keep, then you enter in your next item, your next item, your next item, and as you go down, you can see I've entered quite a few here, beginning dates with durations. So once you have all of that entered in, you can then switch to the report tabs. There's 3 report tabs. I'm going to actually look at the first one is a Gantt view, very detailed. The next one is a classic calendar, and the next one is a quick view, another Gantt view. And so we're going to go to the schedule classic calendar first. We're going to come back to this Gantt view on the left here, but we're going to go to the classic calendar first. So click on that. All the entries that we made for each task and duration, that's going to show up on the calendar here. So the first date was in May. This is the month of May, followed by June, and you scroll down and so forth. So each of the tasks that were listed shows up on the appropriate day. A team meeting was set up, another team meeting, requirements. As you see, requirement refinement goes on for multiple days. And each of the tasks is prefixed with a little bullet there, so you can distinguish the two, because there will be wrapping such as in here. And it'll go forth, so you can publish these as needed, and it'll continue down through whatever time period you've selected. The next view that we'll be looking at is Report 3, the typical Gantt quick view. In this quick view, you'll see a lot of information here. We're going to enlarge this a little bit so you can see it. This is your classical Gantt view using Excel. There's not much you can edit here, but there are some things you can edit. The classical view has the tasks listed at the left, dates across the top, and then the bars that show the duration of each task, and then the name. So this may look a little bit confusing to some. So what you can do is we're going to scroll up here, and there's two options at the top. One is to remove the labels, and one is to change the date. We're going to remove these labels. See these labels over these bars? Simply click the button, and it removes all those labels. So you can see the classical waterfall cascading view. Maybe you want to put those back in. These dates are, gosh, it's hard to tell what's what. A few things you can do to change this. You can actually spread out the chart, make it a little bit wider, and it'll separate the dates. Or over here on the upper left, right now it's showing the date interval of every single day, one day at a time, 25, 26, 27. Let's say I want to display every 5 days. I change that to 5, go select the user interval date, and now it changes to every 5 days. So there's a lot of different things you can do here. If you don't like that, you can shrink it back in. And another way to change this is to reset, go to your setup tab on the lower left and change the display dates. And then perhaps if this is an extremely long project, you can only show 10 dates at a time or 20 dates, whatever. At any time you can put these labels back in and out. You can also copy and paste this into another application for people to see in the Gantt view. Should you accidentally delete the view, simply hit the reset user chart and it'll redisplay it, and you can still continue making those changes as you'd like. When you're in this scheduled Gantt view, it is fully editable. So if you should want to change the color of a particular line, you can change whatever you'd like. There's different options available. If you start making too many changes, or certainly do not change the data selection area. But if you start making too many changes and it's like, oh my goodness, I just want to go back to the original, just hit the reset button and you'll go back to the original. And again, you can always remove those labels or change the dates as you would choose to do. All right, now we're going to take a look at the scheduled Gantt view. We've switched over to the scheduled Gantt view. If there has been anything that's changed in the setup or main schedule tab for dates or text or anything like that, you'll be presented a little window. Don't know if you can see it here. It basically says it needs updating. You select yes, and then you'll be presented with a window that says Gantt is updating, and it takes a few minutes, perhaps more than desired, It takes about 1 minute for every 2 rows. So if you have a rather large sheet, it's going to take 5, 10, 15 minutes to update. But once it's updated, it'll look like this. And then what we have here is a near replication of the main schedule tab, but it's not an editable area. So what you can do is you can view this, you can copy and paste into another application. In this particular view, it shows the today date, and it shows the bars. The nice thing about this view, it has individual month and year displayed, and then under that each individual day. So it's a slightly different view of a Gantt. Some people prefer different views, and again, this is kind of the waterfall tasking of things that fall off to the right. There's no editable items in here. You'll just keep getting a pop-up error. What you can do, you can copy and paste this entire area, paste it into do a copy, paste it into another application, or perhaps you only want to get the task list and populate that next to your Gantt here. There's a lot of different things you can do here, but this is just another Gantt view for you to use in your tool set. And of course, I've enlarged this. I'm gonna, you can go scroll in and out. I'm going to scroll back out. Now on the lower right here, you have your plus and minus bar. So however much of this information that you want to get, and paste it into another application, whatever works well for you, you can do that as well. So this is the basic Gantt view. We showed you the other classical calendar and the other quick view. At this point, you should be able to get going and set up your schedule. Very easy. We're going to go back to the setup tab. Just as a reminder, I'm going to reduce the size back down here. Enter your start dates. By the way, all 3 of these dates can be the same date. If you don't have any of the startup activity, you can put them all the same date. Then simply enter in your duration or finish date. Decide whether you want to move stuff off the weekend. If it's a personal project at home, who cares if it's on a weekend or not? You're probably going to say no, and that'll change the dates. And then decide what you want to display for your display dates. Here are the data entries, and then here's the results of what will be displayed. Go to your main schedule. No need to change anything on the dashboard. Simply start entering in your tasks. You can, again, some of these you can overwrite. You can say team meeting 1, right? So you can either select from the list or completely overtype, and maybe this is the owner. Whatever you want to say, and this is Bob. So all these items are changeable, but you now have the skills and knowledge to go ahead and just simply start making these changes and then start reviewing it in the Gantt chart. It's as simple as that. Another note before we get on to the bonus video of showing predecessors and successors, how to insert and delete tasks. This is the task table, right? So you've entered in information into your task table, and let's say you want to add, your proposal may be 100 rows long, and however many you want to add. So let's say you want to add something here. You want to add a row. Let's just randomly pick one here. You click the row on the left, and then you select right click, and you say insert, right there, and you insert. It's going to insert one single row, and it's going to churn a little bit because it's got about 1,500 cells that it's replicating formulas and formatting and so forth, and then it'll come back, and not every row will be populated as you might expect, because now you're going to have to re-enter or enter some of the information that's needed. So it's already resolved, and you're going to select the indentation level, let's say 2, and you can enter your my new task, and you keep marching forth and going along. Now you'll see The yes no is has this coloring here, and you can select yes or no and it'll change the value. Another alternative, if you want to copy paste, never do a full copy paste. If you want to copy values and put them into another cell, always do a copy paste value, and I'll show you how to do that. Let's say this was blank. You want to copy, highlight the cells, right click, do a copy, put it where you want to do the pasting, right click, don't do a paste, go to the paste value, 1, 2, 3, this area right here, 1, 2, 3, click that. The reason for that is there's formulas and conditional formatting. If you don't do a copy paste value, you're going to have some problems. So always save, and do a save as, do good configuration management of your files. I'm going to delete this, my new task. To delete a task, simply highlight the row, select the row on the left here, and then I'm going to right click and say select delete, and then that row is deleted. If you want to insert 3 rows, you select where you want to insert. Again, select the row, scroll down by the number of rows you want to insert by. We selected team meeting. I want to do it below that. So we'll insert 3 rows above draft RFP received. I've selected the full rows, and you can see they're highlighted. And then I'm going to right click and say insert. And now it's going to take 3 times longer than a single row. You'll see the windows churning here. The time marker is going on. And as soon as this resolves in creating all of the formulas and data formatting, it'll be ready for you to use. And as soon as this is done, then we'll start entering in the same data as before. So you'll see the task number is automatically updated, and then you simply enter in your each item going across, whatever you want to enter in your dates and so forth. And again, you can either select the values that in this area, or again do highlight, copy, highlight that area, and then copy paste value only, and there we go. If you want to replicate this name here, same thing, or maybe there's multiple information pieces you want to copy. Don't copy the no edit. Don't do that. Copy the areas that are no edit, copy, and then simply copy paste. Okay, so we'll delete that back out, and then we'll be ready to go for the next phase here. We deleted that, and you can go back to all your schedule Gannts. Everything will be updated live. Schedule Gantt view is another animal, which I think we already went over, and we're not going to update that at this point. But now we're going to move on to some bonus footage of how to do successors and predecessors on some of these tasks. All right, now we're going to be looking at how to do predecessors and successors. These first few rows of team meetings, I've preset the dates, and so the first date is on meeting 1 is 5:30. Proposal start date is on 5:26. Maybe that's a little bit of a misnomer. Maybe we want to change that to 5:25. Okay, and let's say we want to have our meetings every Tuesday, and you'll see on the right here the dates for the team meetings in this area is set for every Tuesday. But if you're going to create a template or you want to replicate this for another project of some sort, maybe you want to say, I want to have that date based on the very first date. And so what you can do is click on that date, click on that cell, and then rather enter in a date, you enter a formula, which you press the equal sign and then say that date plus, and you add the plus, let's say 3 days. Well, that seems to be falling on a weekend, so we'll say plus, instead of 3, we'll say 5. Okay, that happens to fall on a Tuesday. And so now we have our first date of our first meeting plus the difference from the day before, or the meeting before. And now we can say, well, let's say from that date, I want every 7 days. So I can click on the next meeting date. Remember, we're looking at this row for meetings. I don't want to say every Tuesday. So I can say equals this date plus 7. And then I can keep replicating that. Plus equals the date above me, the previous meeting, plus 7. And I can keep doing that for all the meetings. And I'll just complete this. Equals the date before me, plus 7 days. And you can see everything turns out to be a Tuesday here. What happens is, when you change this initial date that everything is based off of, 5/25, if you change that to 5/26, which will end up on a Friday, all the other dates will change to a Wednesday. So use your decisions how you want to do this. You can always use different values, or I'm going to undo that. And then another way you can do it is, that was a start to start basis. So when this thing starts, that one starts so many days later. So you can have a start to start relationship. You can also have a start to end relationship. Or let's say the draft, I'm going to really mess these dates up here, so don't get hung up on this. Your first draft RFP is received here. So let's say you want to have this date. You can say equals that date, let's say minus my proposed duration. Don't ever use the actual duration, because then it'll be a circular reference. So you want to have something done before. So it'll back it up and it will complete that activity. So that would be a start to end relationship. So it'll end that it will end that date before the previous one starts. Another way to do this is, I want to say this activity starts after the previous one. So I'll go over here and select the end date of the previous activity, and then I can hit return, and it ends on the same date. So this is a Tuesday. Let's say I want to change that duration 1 day, and this will push that out. So everything will be in relationship. So this one ends on 6/7. The other one starts on 6/7 because of what you've entered in. So let's see if we can change that up a little bit here. So let's go back and say this date equals that end date. All right, so this one will start on that end date and go out for so many days. Or you can say this equals the other end date plus, let's say you want to give it some duration. Let's say one duration after the other one. So it'll start on the next day. So there's a lot of relationship areas that you can change here. Simply change the initial date that everything is based on, and everything else will replicate as long as you have those equations in there. And you can do that for every single equation. So when you change this to 5/27, all of the dates will replicate. One thing to be aware of, if you have the yes selected here on the move, yes, move off weekend or holiday, it will alert you if something falls on a holiday. And then you either want to change your start date or the duration. 2, still on a holiday or weekend. 3, still on a holiday or weekend. 4, okay, there we go. And the other dates will follow as you selected. Everything else will automatically update in the schedule Gantt QuickStart, also in the calendar, and then in the Gantt view, you'll have to update this. Again, you'll be presented with this dialog box that says update it or not. I'm going to select no right now, but if you select yes, it'll churn for a few minutes and then update as needed.